Welcome to today's show. I'm so glad that you joined us today. We're going to talk about some big ideas and big dreams and try to answer some big questions in our short episode today. The topic is, what do I want to do when I grow up? Now, there's lots of different angles. People ask themselves, is this the right career for me? Am I in the right path? Should I go back to school and get more education? And a lot of people come to me and say, Courtney, I want to be like you. I want to be self-employed. I want to own my own business. I want to be the master of my own destiny. So let's talk for a little bit. Join me. This is a really, really exciting area for me. As you know, one of the things that I do professionally is I do teach. I'm a professor in the graduate school at the University of Maryland, University College, and I teach MBA students, and I constantly have students ask me, many of them very, very successful individuals already accomplished in their career, many of them mid-career or even retiring from an earlier career and looking at what they're going to do with the rest of their lives. And I always think, gee, how do you answer, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I think it's the wrong question. The conclusion that I've come to is that we're boxing ourselves in. One, we're limiting our choices. What do I want to do when I grow up? Two, we're acting as if there should be some sort of definitive answer. Now, I, like everybody else, has watched and read about people who you see interviewed and they're extremely successful, like they're an Olympic athlete. And they'll say in the interview, I knew when I was 3 years old, this is what I wanted to do. And I got up every day at 3 a.m. and I coached and was trained and I was disciplined and I practiced and whew, I'm still doing it. And that's how I became an elite champion. Now, clearly that does happen for a small majority of people. I know it's probably difficult for many of you to tell, but I am not an Olympic athlete. In fact, I wasn't even successful enough to be able to stay on the track team in high school. In fact, I was booted off the track team in high school. And I believe it may have something to do with the fact that I'm slow and uncoordinated and unable to run fast or jump far. So we're not all born with these natural talents and gifts and able to develop those and go in one linear path. That leaves a lot of us left asking, what am I going to do? And I think the subtext to that is, who am I? And I think the fear in that question is, who should I be? And for some people, the underlying issue is, who do other people want me to be? I think the question that we should ask ourselves in this current global economy, with all these technology inventions and the changes that are coming along, I think we should ask ourselves a different question. And that question is, how do I want to work? So it's not what do I want to do, or who do I want to be, or what should I be, but the question is, how do I want to work? One of the things that I had the pleasure of experiencing is I had a lot of different jobs when I was a teenager and working my way through college. So I have had the pleasure and the privilege of working. I believe my very first job, I made $3.85 an hour. Oh, I'll never forget those big paychecks. Sometimes they'd be 30, 40 bucks. Woo! I would spend it all so quickly. I've worked a lot of minimum wage jobs. And the thing that I learned while I was working those jobs was, one, I probably wanted to do something different than work fast food. Two, even if I had stayed in fast food and had the opportunity and the privilege to become a manager, I learned that I like to work for myself. And I started to understand that the question shouldn't be, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because a lot of us, myself included, I still don't know. I still don't know. I do lots of different things that I enjoy. I enjoy being an attorney. I enjoy going to court. I was in court yesterday. I'll be in court tomorrow. I love it. I enjoy being a professor. I think it's fun. I love to teach and learn. And I love Love the opportunity to practice as a consultant and provide keynote speeches, and also to be an analyst on television. It's fun. I like all these different things. The thing that I did learn, though, is how I like to work. One of the things that helped me was I had a job many years ago, and the person who ran the business had very specific tastes, very specific. One is that he didn't permit any smells or scents to be in the office. And that's okay, because a lot of people have very sensitive noses and don't like any type of heavy perfume or cologne. But he was really extreme. And so when I went to the interview, I remember, and we talked a little bit about the job and the qualifications, and he asked me some questions about could I do the tasks. And then he walks up next to me, and he leans in, and he goes, he was sniffing me. Okay. And he told me very explicitly that I couldn't have any scented soaps, scented toothpaste, scented deodorants, nothing. He didn't want any smells. And I thought to myself at that moment, I'm not going to be here forever. But I took that job. I took that job because while we're asking ourselves, what should I do when I grow up and who do I want to be, we do a lot of things along the way to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I learned at that job, I like to be scented. I like to use toothpaste and soaps and even perfumes. So I learned that lesson. And I also started to think about working for myself. I started to think about maybe there's some alternatives. Another opportunity that I had for growth during this time period is I was fortunate. I realized very early in middle school and high school, I realized one thing about myself that's held true to this very, very day. I am not naturally a morning person. I'm not someone who wakes up at 4 a.m. and says, whoa, happy day, world. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to get out there. I'm ready to go. Now, certainly, as all professionals, I'll get up and plan ahead and do my best, but I just am not that person. I'm not really the morning person. I'm more of a night owl. So I had the brilliant idea a few years ago as I started to explore this question of how should I work? I thought, why don't I get a night job? So I went and I got a job on an assembly line in a computer manufacturing company. And the wonderful thing about it was a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. You were on 4 days one week, and then you were on 3 days the next week. So I thought, this is perfect. I'm a night owl. I'd love to be up at night. I'm sure this will be great. So I remember I went to the training, and they had us in there, and they trained us very quickly, because basically on this assembly line, we just sat in one place, and there was a conveyor belt, and items moved by. And then my job was to take one little piece and stick it on this circuit board. And that was it. That was all I had to do for 12 hours. So after they finished training me, they said, are you ready? Can you handle it? And I said, yeah, I think I can. I think I'm ready. I knew how to pick up the piece and stick it on the circuit board. And that was it. So the shift starts, and I'm brand new, and I'm looking around, and there's people on both sides of me. And I think to myself, this is going to be great. It's nighttime, and I learned this job. I'm capable of sticking this piece here on the circuit board. I'm going to be awesome. So I started working, and 12 hours, that's a long time to fill. So I thought, what I'll do to kind of make my new friends here at work and to kind of blend in with everybody is I'll just work my best. I'll work as hard as I can, and I'll show everybody I'm a hard worker, and then they'll like me, and it'll be fun. So I was working quickly, as fast as I could. I was putting the little piece on the circuit board, and I was moving it down. I was working as fast as I could, moving it, working. There I was. Ooh, I was sweating. I'm sweating thinking about it. So I thought this would be fantastic. And then I started to hear some comments from my new coworkers down the assembly line, and they were not happy. And I heard them say things like, why are you working so hard? You need to slow down. At first, I thought, what? We're here to produce. We're here, we've been told, there's signs telling us how many of these things that we need to produce, and I'm here to work as fast as I can and to do my absolute best. But then I realized the faster I worked, the faster they either had to work to keep up, or it was going to make them look bad. And I realized that this was not a team and a department that was necessarily focused on how many of these can we produce. Instead, it was a little bit more focused on how can we make the 12 hours go by. I also learned in that experience, I am a night person, but I'm also somebody who wants to be able to do my best. And I don't want to be in an environment where I'm hindered and where the culture of the organization, they might say, and it might be from the very top that it is for excellence, but when you sort of get down to the level and day to day, everybody wasn't excited and fired up. Everybody was just sort of doing enough to get through the day. So I learned that part about how I want to work. I want to work in something that I care about, that I think is interesting. I want to work in something that plays to my talents. And I want to work in something where doing your best matters and not just showing up is enough. So all these questions I get from people, not just obviously my students, but people that I meet at speeches and people I meet at their companies, and really asking me, searching, what should I do? The question I'm posing is, how do you want to work? How do you work that makes you happiest and makes you feel best about yourself and the environment? And a lot of people think, oh, I'll just work for myself. I'll be an entrepreneur, it'll be great. I'll have the best boss ever, me. And it'll be awesome. I'll own my own business. I'll make all the decisions. I won't have somebody in there telling me what to do. And it'll be fantastic. And I want to address a little bit of the entrepreneur myth. Now, I'm known for being very pragmatic. Often I'll tell people, and I'll tell you, how I see things and the reality on the ground, and not just what you want to hear or what everybody else is telling you. And one of the things that I'm firmly wedded to as an idea is that things are not easy. Whatever goal you might have, whatever plan you're working on, whatever aspiration, it is not easy, ever. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, what? I thought as a motivational person and somebody who's here to help us, that you're going to tell us there is an easy way, that there is a way, that there's some kind of program we can buy or seminar we can attend or process we can go through, and it'll be easy and the answer will be there. There may be, and I'm just not aware of it. But for almost every endeavor that I've worked on for a client or in my own life, it is never easy. It is always extremely, extremely hard. Now, the good part of that is, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I mean, who on earth, who would wake up in the morning and say, good morning, world. I cannot wait to go work for my boss. I want to make them money. Nothing would make me happier than making my boss rich. If it was easy to work for ourselves, everybody would get up and go work for themselves. Who would work for anybody else? Wouldn't it be much better to sleep in till whenever you wanted? 9, 10, 11, noon? Wouldn't it be much better to have nobody telling you what to do? Wouldn't it be like a fantasy where you got to wake up when you wanted, work when you felt like it, take a nap when you want to? You would be 100% in control and nobody would tell you what to do. If you have that option, why would anyone get up at a certain time, to be at an office or logged into a work site at a certain time, to have somebody else tell them deliverables and timelines, to have somebody else hold them accountable, to have somebody else go over their work and give them feedback or make corrections, to have somebody else share their input? I mean, why would anyone want the stress and the hassle of all these constraints when you could just be free? almost like in a fantasy, sleeping and resting and working and playing. Who wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur if it really was that kind of a fantasy? The challenge is when you ask yourself, how do you want to work? You need to ask yourself a couple things. One, do you like a steady paycheck? I meet lots and lots of people who want to be entrepreneurs. And then I start talking to them, and more importantly, I start listening to them. And after just a few minutes, it's pretty clear to me they don't want to be an entrepreneur. They like the idea of a little bit more creativity and maybe doing something a little bit different, mixing things up in their business, but they don't want to be an entrepreneur because they don't want to get out there and have one big risk. If you're an entrepreneur, you can get out there and work really hard, really hard. And when payday rolls around, you can look to your bank account and see nothing. There is absolutely no paycheck guaranteed. That is sobering for a lot of people. And if you're somebody who likes the comfort of knowing, okay, it's payday, I'm gonna get my direct deposit, I'm gonna get this exact dollar amount, and you also like the security of having many large employers, and many large employers have voluntary benefits like sick leave, sick days, personal leave, vacation. I mean, wow. You know, really, you would get paid even if you didn't even go to work because you're on some sort of leave. That would be awesome. And then you get your paycheck and it would be the same on payday, like clockwork. If you like that type of framework for your life, and most people do, the reality is most people say, yeah, I have a family, I have bills. How am I going to pay my mortgage and pay my car note and pay my cable bill if I don't know how much money is coming in? How am I going to be able to plan ahead and take care of other people that are dependent on me if I don't know when I'm going to get paid or if I'm going to get paid? And they're right. It is very, very difficult to work for yourself because there are no guarantees and there's 100% risk. And so lots of people, what they really want to do is they want to answer that question, not what do I want to do when I grow up, but they need to ask themselves, how do I want to work? If they want to work in that framework where you have a paycheck, where you have some stability, then they just need to start asking themselves, I think I just want a little variety. They don't want to be an entrepreneur necessarily, but maybe they'd like to have a different job title for a little while. Maybe they'd like to work on assignment somewhere differently. Maybe they like to be on a different team. So they do want a little bit of change, but they don't want to jump out there into some sort of environment that's very scary, very alien, extremely tough. That's why most small businesses and new businesses fail. It's not because people aren't working hard and trying. It's because it's extremely hard. You've got to wear all these hats, and you've got to do everything from marketing to sales to business development to customer care. I mean, it's a lot. Now, some people, though, look at the framework of that guaranteed paycheck, sick days and personal leave, and they just say to themselves, it's too confining. Some people want to run free, and they want to be in that environment where it's really risky and scary, and they might get $0. On the other hand, as an entrepreneur, you might get a really big paycheck. You just don't know. So everybody has to ask the question I'm posing. How do I want to work? I know that I like to work for myself. So it really doesn't matter, really, what it is. I enjoy all the different things I do. On the other hand, somebody who wants that framework is not going to be happy. Even if their business succeeds, they're just going to be so stressed out. And I meet a lot of people that go into small business entrepreneurship, and they're so stressed out and they just can't, it's just overwhelming because there's so much fear and there's so much uncertainty. What's going to happen? Even if you do a fantastic job, is that client going to pay? Are they going to pay quickly? Because they may pay, but they may pay so slowly that in the interim you have other costs that you've got to cover, and it's stressful. So I think we need to go in a new direction. We're in a global economy. We've got distributed workforces around the world. We've got people competing for, especially white-collar jobs, on continents far-flung. We've got teams at big companies, small companies that are comprised of people. Somebody may be working in India, somebody may be working in London, somebody might be working in Austin, Texas. So when we have all these different choices and all this technology, I think the bigger question is not what specifically do I want to do? I don't think you have to say, I want to be a copy editor. I absolutely positively know that I want to be an advertising exec. But I think the bigger question is, how do you want to work? Do you want to work independently? That's something. I'm introverted. I'm a proud, geeky introvert. So I'm okay working by myself. I can be by myself for long periods of time. But people who are extroverted, they need to be around other people. So for somebody who's an extrovert to say, I'm going to go work in my virtual telecommuting home office, they're going to be miserable. I have a friend I just talked to about that, who I said, you could do it. I mean, certainly you could do it, but I think you'd be so unhappy because you like to interact and socialize with friends every single day at work. That's the framework. How do you want to work? I think once we figure out how we want to work, do I want to be around people, extroverted? Do I want to be a little bit more by myself? Am I somebody who wants to have a framework around me and a support system of things with like guaranteed paychecks and voluntary benefits? Or am I somebody who's comfortable out there with no safety net? Once we start to answer those questions, then I think we can find that sweet spot that we're all looking for. That professional activity that we wake up in the morning and it's exciting. I wrote in the book, Ordinary Women, Extraordinary Success, I co-authored a few years ago. I wrote about almost like a feeling like on Christmas morning or some exciting day when you wake up and you kind of got that in your stomach and you're a little kid and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? I get that from my work. And that's awesome. And I didn't always get that when I was working maybe on an assembly line or in fast food, because those weren't the right methods for me. So I think when you find the answer to how you want to work, you'll find that sweet spot and you'll start to have a little bit of joy in your life about your profession. I thank you so much for joining us today. This is a tough, tough subject, but I have faith and thank you.